if the board is inclined to move this forward and change these notices, then I think it would be proper for you all to ask me to draft an ordinance using these suggestions that you've got here to bring back before the commission, and let you all review that, tweak it as you need to, and then approve it, and then send it up, since it would be an actual amendment to our zoning ordinance, especially with respect to board of zoning appeals and all that. Would you concur with that, planner?
I'm sorry, I lost on the root tree. I was actually thinking about something that Carolyn said earlier, subdivision advertisement. One of the reasons why you don't see an address sometimes is because the parcels don't have an address.
Sure.
Sure.
So, as an example, one of the ones we're hearing tonight didn't have a physical address until for Mount Pleasant. So what we're trying to do now, instead, having taken your point, is orient it by landmark, next door to or adjacent to, so that people will get some concept of where the property is located when we don't have a physical address. Those are assigned by 911, which is done through the county 911 office, so sometimes we just don't have a physical address to do that.
Yeah, I know you did it at the one property where you said next to the high school across from, so yeah.
So if we do it that way, then it gives them a landmark. And
You can.
I apologize, somebody talking. I don't have umbrance with doing this at all. I think that with notification of property owners, in some cases it may reach the property owners, in some cases it doesn't because it's a rental where they're not present, or so we run into that all the time with code enforcement letters as well. I don't have umbrance with that at all. I just think that we could do a better job. The loss of the advocate was a big loss to the community. Cheatham County Exchange, they do a really good job with advertisements, not so much with articles of interest, because they're just not platformed in this area of the county. And John, the webpage I think is a tremendously good idea. So many people have come to rely on social media and internet platforms since the pandemic. That's how most people are consuming that, or being on their phone. So
That's it.
it's
Any other
addressing.
Any other commissioners have questions?
I mean, also when the parcels and all are listed, I mean, the deeds office will tell you exactly where that is. I mean, even the folks that go out and mark for digging and all have trouble finding places when they're not listed with an actual address, as far as they have an address there on site. So, I mean, you can get the information. It takes some digging.
Sure.
And also, there's a Tennessee property owner website.
Right,
that,
property data homepage.
Property viewer, that, I mean, you can find anything, anybody's name, it's all listed right there. It just takes a little effort on the part of the
What
public.
you don't have from the public is effort.
Right.
Well, then if you don't give a little effort, then you can't really complain about what you're getting.
You can. You can complain all you want.
Doesn't go very far though, Tony.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to get away from, those having people that have to sleuth it out for themselves, because I know, I mean, I can do it. I did legal work for 30 years. I know how to look stuff up and find stuff. But I just think if we can make it easier, we can make it easier. I understand some places don't.
We have a city office that answers the phone regularly. They talk to me all the time. Tell me all kinds of good stuff.
Well, Carolyn, I really appreciate you doing this.
Thanks, Ms.
I would encourage you to pursue it further zealously. Please.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is preliminary plat to combine 3 parcels for the purpose of development of an approved preliminary master plan multifamily apartment complex on East Kingston Springs Road.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. In your packet, directly behind Ms. Clark's information, you will see a plat, preliminary plat. This is the McPherson property adjacent to the stuff and storage units. If you will remember back, the preliminary plat was approved, and then it was discovered there was an easement that needed to be addressed. We addressed that in 2018. Then Mr. McPherson wanted to make some changes to the layout of the project, reducing the number of units and moving around some of the infrastructure and parking in order to respond to staff comments. So what you have in front of you now from EES surveying, it looks like this, is combining the 3 parcels into one for the purposes of development. The easement with the adjacent property owner is reflected on the plat. The plat does meet all of the requirements for Kingston Springs. So this is the newest preliminary plat. So Mr. McPherson is seeking approval of this plat in order to move forward with his construction plans.
I didn't,
His construction plans, the plan set, until this is approved combining all of the lots, he can't move forward with construction
all
plans.
right. Do we have a motion to approve this preliminary plat?
So moved. Second.
Second? Moved and seconded, any discussion?
Just on that easement, does the easement have to be marked on here as far as actually what's going to happen? Or does it just have to be marked that there's an easement for something to happen?
I think that has to do
Sharon.
to the construction plan, but yeah, Sharon,
Okay.
you need to answer.
Sharon, you have a
Just-
question?
I apologize, the city
She had a
attorney
question from me
question
too.
as well. So,
No worries. On this, as we pass it as it is, this just has to show that there is an easement on it. It doesn't have to show exactly what they're going to do to satisfy the easement, correct?
No, I hate to say that bluntly.
No
The
worries.
legal description of the easement is recorded at the courthouse
Okay.
with the filing of the deed. When this is approved, it will also be attached to this plat and filed at the courthouse as well.
Okay.
This is a preliminary plat. The easement agreement with metes and bounds has already been filed in the courthouse and
Definitely.
is there. So this plat that you're looking at, this preliminary plat, shows that easement.
Correct. That's all it has to do is show it. Now,
correct.
once the next step, we'll have to show exactly what they're doing to satisfy, correct?
That is correct. When
Okay.
they present their construction plans, there will be a grading plan that will show the improvements, how it's done, and it's already a matter of public record from the last meeting that the access cannot be restricted between the two properties.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Do we have a motion to approve this
We
plat?
have
It's already been made.
a
Second.
second to vote.
Second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. All right, next item on the agenda is... What?
See,
Construction plans approved, master plan, and this is for the same parcel of land?
it is indeed, the construction plans did not make it in time for submission to the planning commission. They are not at this point ready, so this item will be deferred with discretion of the planning commission.
All right. Next one is D, consideration of abandonment of a 20-foot public utility and drainage easement approved by the planning commission.
Mr. Campbell, I'm sorry to interrupt. I think you actually need a motion to defer item C, since it is on your agenda, a motion to defer that to next
Okay, do
meeting.
we have a motion to defer?
item C.
So moved.
Moved and seconded, any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Thank you.
Did you say that? Is that Keith?
All right,
Chuck.
Second first.
this is the abandonment of the public utility easement.
Yes, sir. At the last planning commission meeting, Mr. LaBerge spoke to the planning commission about the abandonment of a public utility and drainage easement on his lot on Mount Pleasant Road. So I believe he's here tonight, wishes to ask you to abandon that easement. Staff has reviewed this. My concerns are that the abandonment of this public utility and drainage easement on either side of his lot affects the property owners on either side of him. It was required as a part of the Simpkins 3-lot subdivision that was approved back in 2012. You approved the original plat in this planning commission that showed that utility easement. If there is a need for utility expansion in the future, we will not have that reservation along the side boundary that's present in almost every other lot recently approved by the planning commission. So I think he's going to ask for you to abandon that public utility and drainage easement on the side boundary of his lot on Mount Pleasant Road. Staff recommendation would be not to do so.
That's legal concurrence as well.
Pardon?
Legal concurs as well.
Legal concurs with planning
All right,
opinion.
do we have someone that wants to?
Mr. LaBerge is here tonight.
Yes, yes. I'm Jim LaBerge. I have a lot here on Mount Pleasant. I'm going to bring up some particulars. And I'd like to propose that we abandon it. Now, first thing I want to make clear is that I don't want to even try to persuade you guys to do anything that doesn't make sense for the community. I'm a 22-year member of this community, and I think we ought to have the community's best interest in mind. I don't see how this abandonment of this easement affects anything of any significance at all. I think it's arbitrary, and it doesn't help. So I think we should abandon this easement, and we'll go to the slideshow and tell you about why. So what we're trying to do is build modest-sized, quality, beautiful houses for first-time homeowners, young families moving to the community, wanting to start a house, wanting a house to start their home in, and also for seniors or singles that don't need, like down the street from us, is a $650,000 house. Well, young couples can't afford that. So we're trying to find lots that work to build a little smaller house that's well built. It's beautiful, open floor plans, 9-foot walls with vaulted ceilings, granite countertops, hardwood hardwood cabinets, spacious bedrooms. Just a really nice, smart, affordable house for our young people to move in they can afford, or for seniors that want to come in and be part of the neighborhood with their grandchildren. So that's what we're doing. Here's the lot. This is on Mount Pleasant. This is a 2-acre lot. When I bought this lot, I went downtown. I said, "Is there any reason that we can't divide this lot?" And I was told that no, as long as you can meet the setback requirements, you have adequate soil. It's already zoned R1, and so there's no zoning requirement to be changed here. It's just simply approval of a plat that it would work. And so we did all that. This is actually the plat that we presented that we went through a pretty good process to get developed. Go ahead and move the next slide. We had the site survey, we had the soil map, had the plat created. We staked out the house. We had a local installer come out here, lay out the septic, so there is adequate soil. It was approved tentatively by the Department of Water Resources for 2 2-bedroom houses, and we took it to the water company. They signed off. Everybody signed off on it. We took the lot to get the final approval from Cheatham County and the Department of Water Resources, and that's when we found out we had this PUDE, Public Utility Drainage Easement, that goes around the property. And what that means is this: you have a setback 20 foot for the easement, and then a 25 feet additional restrictive zone where you can't put any septic fields in. Doing that just makes this impossible. They can't do it. You're taking out 45 feet up around the entire perimeter of each lot, and so that doesn't work. So I talked to Franklin Wilkinson. You're probably familiar with him, and he said it's possible that the easement could be abandoned. And so that's when I talked to Sharon. She said, "Well, you need to go to TDEC and see what they say." And so I talked to Virginia Lawrence at TDEC. She says, "Well, there's no infrastructure, there's no hard structure, it's not an issue we can address." So I went back to Sharon. We were trying to find who this easement is in favor of, and we never did quite find out. Brian McCain did our survey, and evidently it was a part of the original, as Sharon mentioned, proposal at some point was put on there. Now, public utility drainage easement is for the discharge of stormwater. It includes, being able to put ditches, culverts, pipes, or whatever it might take to drain the water from the surrounding area through the property, and also permits, to be able to come on the property and continue that. So we're talking about the size of this property, and we're talking about drainage property. Here's the lot. This picture was taken right after our huge flood there in March. There are no drains, there are no pipes, no culverts, no ditches, no channeling water, and no erosion. It's just a non-issue here. I think that maybe this was an arbitrary decision. I don't know. You can't, when you're making decisions like this, there's no way you can look at each lot and to figure out how it's affecting it. So I'm saying it on a case-by-case basis for this lot, it just doesn't make sense. Here's a picture of the lot. It's a gentle slope from the road down to the back. It's kind of a closed system. There's a little slope upward that you see in the picture. There's a slope behind, and it all just drains naturally here. And again, you see there is no erosion. There's no infrastructure there.
What is it? You say gentle slope. How many degrees?
I think it's 3 degrees in the front. I mean, I can show you the topo map in a minute.
I've gone by it. It looks a lot steeper than that to me.
Well, back up the picture here, because you can see, okay, right here. Whatever it is, I don't know exactly that question, but there's plenty of soil to do exactly what we're talking about, and there's no channeling here of water anywhere. It just flows naturally down there. It's not a very big area to start with. This area is about 200 and like 25 feet across here on my property, and the only drainage we're getting is what falls on this and whatever's on the side of the street that happens.
There's a natural dip in the road after that.
There is. There's a natural.
So most of this water flowing probably come off the road, other than with the natural rainwater.
Yeah, you're getting what falls on the property and maybe half of the road in that section, because the other half falls on the other side.
It's pretty steep, my way of looking at it. I mean, I haven't stopped and walked it, but it looks significant slope.
Well, yeah, this whole front area, like I said, is a gentle slope all the way across. And I've got the picture, so it's not very steep, really. You can walk it, it's very comfortable.
No, but how deep is that? You're not going to build a house. How close are you proposing to build houses to the road?
The normal setback, the 45 feet. Here, back up to that plat, and I'll show you on the plat. Okay, so here's the plat. Here's the location of the houses. We were looking upward in that picture up here. There's a little gentle dip right here, and the water naturally drains whatever there is. And there's not, as you can see from the pictures, during that 8-inch rain that we had, there's no erosion. There's no ditches. There's no channeling of water anywhere on the property at all. And so none of this will change. We'll have a house here and here. The natural flow is through here. It's going to keep doing exactly what it's been doing forever and ever. And so the thing is like here, we're talking about having easement on each side of here to do what? There's nothing back there. Go ahead, move forward. Okay, so here's a picture so you can kind of see a bigger layout of what is this topo map, as most of you are probably familiar with. There's the front of the property. Here's Interstate 40. Why would you need a drainage easement for public utilities to go back where there's no property? All this is the Interstate 40. There's nothing back there. There's nothing to build. There's no access needed. And this area, and I want to show you this too. Here's a bigger picture of the surrounding areas and the water drainages on those properties. You can see the blue lines in all these pictures. Every lot has got some sort of little water movement towards it, because we're in Cheatham County and that's just the terrain. If you pop up, go up one more. Okay, so this is a bigger area. Here's my lot, the 2 acres. Here's a series of lots, just 3 lots up, and then up on the other side of the street, there's another 5 lots. And you can see that some are smaller than mine, some are bigger than mine, but all of them have some water drainage. And all of them are about the same slope. These lots here are all the same slope as what I've got. They've got in the front, there's a little gentle slope that drops off, especially these lots here. And so it's no different than anything else you got there. Now, if this ordinance had been in place then, none of these houses could have been built. They couldn't have been built because of this drainage easement. And again, why do you need an easement to go back to the highway? What are you going to put back there? There's nothing to put back there. There's no advantage. Like I said, there's no erosion. There's no hard structure. And there's nothing you could ever build behind there. Because this is this. We'll go forward and I'll show you what's behind here. Okay, this is the back of the property. And then as you step into the woods, now this is where it does get steep, sir. Back here you're seeing a little ditch. Go ahead and go further. See, this is what's in the back, and where there is channeling water, and where there is, go back a couple more. Okay. And you can see how steep it is back here. And that's the way this whole area behind all these lots is. They're all lots, because again, it's Cheatham County. If you go back further, you see that you've got, this is the main channel of water that runs from Mount Pleasant all the way along the side of the interstate. On the back side of this up here is the interstate. So what would you be accessing? There's nothing to access. There's no reason to have any access there for any drainage because it doesn't exist. And the normal flow of water has been undisturbed and will be undisturbed because the only thing you're going to have is 2 roofs, and the water from them is going to be put into downspouts that's going to go back here. So there's not going to be any change in water movement. There's not going to be a need for any access. And I just think it was probably a little bit arbitrary because obviously you can't address every specific lot when you make a decision like this. And so I think that it just makes sense on this particular case to abandon the easement.
You're not taking into any consideration future development in that area. We have to be very concerned about that.
Sure. Well, actually, I have, sir. I have. What I'm saying is, if you back up, what would we? This is what's behind here.
I don't know.
How can we develop that?
Don't ask me, I'm not a developer.
Well, for right now, there's a, the R1 zone, and so you can't put in more than one house on them anyway. So there's no way to develop this for zoning now. So what would you do? Would we split the lots to build on this here when we can't build on what's up on it? We want to try to preserve the build on something like this. Flip all the way to the front. When right now, what we're keep going forward, we wouldn't be able to build on this. It doesn't make sense. I mean,
I'm not comfortable waiving that.
I understand. So there is an easement across the front for public utilities, which is fine. But on the sides, there's there's no, as you can see, there's no. There just isn't. And there's house after house after house on the same street looks exactly like this.
All right.
So I appreciate your time, and I think it makes sense to abandon it and be able to utilize this property for the kind of houses that we're trying to build that young people can afford. Thank you.
Thank you.
So at your fill lines, you can't get in the back due to the narrowness of the back and your offsets with the easement?
Yeah. So all of those, what you have is houses along the front of that Mount Pleasant, all the way along that street. There's a couple places where the property facilitates, putting a house further back, but all the rest of them are right in the front. And so there's nothing to be done in that back. It's a big ditch with a little drainage creek running through it. So there's just nothing back there to develop, and then you've got the interstate beyond that. So you'd never be creating any infrastructure to go through an interstate.
Well,
Right.
I'd like to hear from our planner about why she's opposed to it.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Well,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have three primary concerns. One, this lot is not subdivided as of this date. It contains exactly 2 acres on the deed. County calculates the lot size is 1.94 acres. As you know, these surveys are created from a deed of record, not an actual field survey. My secondary concern is the septic field will go wall to wall across both lots in an area very adjacent to the rear of the house, because the rear of the property is in excess in most of its last third of 30% slope. The utility drainage easement is not only a drainage easement, it's a public utility easement. If gas or any other utility that doesn't interrupt the water line has to be installed, because the water line's across the front of the road, it would have to come down that side boundary. It impacts the adjacent property owners on either side, because they have lots in this subdivision as well. The Department of Commerce and Environment Commerce will not issue a septic permit within 25 feet of a drainage easement or a utility easement. So the abandonment of this easement is the purpose of Mr. LaBerge's visit here, otherwise the property cannot be subdivided. The shape of the lot does not lend itself well to the absorption of water. It's broad on the front. It comes to a triangular point at the back. When you remove the tree cover, the ground cover, and pour a slab, pour a driveway, you're eliminating where the water normally runs across the property. So it will be diverted to a different area. It's no different than putting a pebble in a stream. When you put something in the way, then the pathway changes. That's true of any area that has water table. So again, we reserve public utility and drainage easements routinely in Kingston Springs for a reason. Sometimes it's an environmental reason, sometimes it's for the expansion of public utilities in the future. None of us are going to live forever. The land is not going to look tomorrow like it looks today. My secondary concern is the narrowness of the lot at the rear. It's the only pie-shaped lot in the near vicinity that looks like that it comes down to a finite point of triangle. My third concern is the soil saturation from a subsurface sewage system across the entire surface of both of those lots that are being proposed. So those are my reasons for not recommending the abandonment of this easement.
I'd like to address those.
just quickly.
Yes, very quickly. Again, as far as the drainage of the sewer, what you have is you have actually a primary and a secondary field. So this has enough room for both of those. And we don't figure out, people a lot smarter than me, figure out what it takes to do that, and there's plenty of soil for that. So that's not an issue. The fact that it comes to a point really is irrelevant other than it's different from the other lots. It doesn't make any difference to this. And again, there's nothing to build back there. There's no way you could ever build back there because there's nothing back, you've got an interstate. What would you be building on the side of an interstate? So I think abandoning it makes good sense. I think it sets a precedent. And I think it makes room for young people to have houses that they can afford and move into our community. So thank you for your time.
Do we have a motion to,
Martha Brooke, you said that, what was your,
Sure,
from your perspective from the
with
legal
respect to those public utility and drainage easements that are in there, when this was approved, when it was the 3-lot subdivision, those other lots adjoining have vested interest in those public utility and drainage. So an abandonment of those could adversely affect those neighboring lots. So you've got the structure, the plat in front of you. You can see those other lots. You also potentially have parcels of property adjacent to it that were not part of that original subdivision that also could benefit from the use of a public utility and drainage easement at some point in the future. So that's why legal strongly cautions you on abandoning those, especially for those lots relative to that subdivision where it was originally approved.
thank you. Have any questions? Do we have a motion to abandon the
I have
easement?
one quick question. If he doesn't subdivide the property, there'd be no problem in building a single one home on that property?
None. He would have no problem building a single-family home on the existing lot.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Do we have a motion? Hearing none, we'll go on to the next item on the agenda. Thank you. UGB recommendation upon application of a request to rezone to the Cheatham County Commission.
This item was filed on an application by Mr. Ben LaBerge. Mr. LaBerge is the brother of Mr. Jim LaBerge, who just spoke, but he is not the property owner of the lot on Bald Eagle Drive. I have asked him to, and he filed it under the name of a Golden Rule LLC. Golden Rule LLC does not own this lot. I advised Mr. LaBerge, Ben LaBerge, 3 weeks ago that he needed some sort of representation letter in order to bring this item to the Planning Commission. I have not received that. So this item is not ready to hear.
Okay, I went downtown that day, and I filled out the necessary documents myself, and was ready to pay the money. I was downtown, and I did that. That wasn't Ben, I did that. And you have the documents. And I had pictures of them.
We're here.
Yes, I came downtown the day before it needed to be done, same time I did that, and I filled out all the paperwork, and I submitted it.
I'm lost. The only communication that I've had with anybody on this lot is Ben LaBerge. So the lot is not owned by Golden Rule LLC, unless the deed has changed in the last 3 weeks. It is owned by Mr. LaBerge, Jim LaBerge. So I asked for clarification, copied both Mr. LaBerge's on that communication, spoke to Mr. LaBerge on the phone, and advised him that if it's going to be under the name of the LLC, which currently isn't, he's going to need to provide some sort of documentation to that effect. Because right now it's under his ownership.
Does city manager have any comments on this?
No, sir, I've not been involved in the transactions.
You're not aware of him coming in, or?
No, sir.
It's in the county.
Well, I assure you, I did come in, I'm looking for the picture right now. I came in and I filled out the documents myself.
Here at the building right over there?
I did, yes, sir, I sure did.
So surely somebody,
I haven't seen anything.
do you remember who you spoke with? Like
It was a
which
young
person?
lady that said she didn't know a whole lot about it. I think she had black hair. I'm trying to figure out, let's see, what date would it, that would have been, let me see if I can find it. But I actually,
Well,
Is this Jim?
Okay.
I have a, so I had corresponded with Sharon through email, and she had said that she's in receipt of the rezoning application for the one that I had submitted,
I can't hear you.
I'm sorry. So I had been in correspondence with Sharon, and I'm pulling up the emails right now. She had said that she was in receipt of the application that I had submitted. At the time, I was mistaken that it was under his name, and she had responded that the application from the Planning Commission, Board of Appeal, and the Design Review Committee are submitted to the city manager for John Wallace. She was answering a question for me, but she had told me that I would need permission from Jim LaBerge to represent him in interactions with the city regarding applications he filed as he is the property owner, and that I would need to provide a notarized letter. But I was unaware that to refile that I would need to get a notarized letter. And Jim LaBerge is here today, and the application was turned in by both of us, so I'm kind of confused on this.
May I? I'm a little confused too. The only application I have was submitted by Ben LaBerge. I'm assuming you're Ben?
I am.
I don't have access to any other application. So when Mr. LaBerge sent that application to me, I think it was forwarded through an email. He didn't own the property. If you don't own the property, you can't come in and request a rezone because you don't own the property. So I advised him that the next step was to seek permission from the property owner. And Ben, would you share with them when I sent you that communication?
You sent, it was on April 12th, you said that you were in receipt of the rezoning application for a property, map 105, parcel 219, Bald Eagle Drive. And there's some information about Cheatham County and the relationship between Kingston Springs and Cheatham. The application will be considered for a rezoning recommendation by the Kingston Springs Planning Commission on the 13th of May 2021.
So, we are the recommending body, as you know. This is another one of those that lies within our urban growth boundary. If there is an application from Jim LaBerge, I'm not in possession of it, haven't seen it, don't know anything about it. All of my communication has been with Ben LaBerge. So we're in the kind of an awkward position today. There are evidently 2 applications floating around for this property. Is that the case?
It has to be, because I filled one up.
You filled one out, he filled one out.
There's one with me.
On the same property. Okay. So I'm going to have to defer to Martha Brooke. I have one application in my possession filed by Ben LaBerge. I counseled Mr. LaBerge on what he would need to proceed forward. I don't have any. I don't have that one.
You don't have this one in your.
Nope. All I've got is the one from Ben LaBerge.
I have Jim LaBerge.
That's Jim.
You don't get it. Okay. So, we have, and you gave this to someone at City Hall, who then, is this the one that you filed?
Yeah, I believe it is.
Okay, so that one,
So, it appears we have a conundrum here. This application is signed by Ben LaBerge, and Mr. LaBerge. Ben LaBerge also filed one that I'm in possession of. So, how do we proceed, Madam Attorney?
The county application is what we have. So Jim has filed the county, which is in front of us. And then you've got the city, which our planning commission does not have a copy of.
I don't have that one.
You don't have
That's
a
not
copy
the one I
of
reviewed.
those
No.
interchange ones.
The only one that was forwarded to me was filed by Mr. Ben LaBerge, not Jim LaBerge.
But Jim LaBerge has applied. We do have a copy of that from the Department of Codes.
It has not been reviewed.
It has
at
not
all.
been reviewed at this point.
Nope, it has not. Because I don't have it.
It's obvious to me that there's nothing ready for us to make a decision on tonight.
I don't believe that it is, and that is probably through no fault of the applicant. I don't have a copy of what you have in your packet. All I have is the one filed by the other Mr. LaBerge. So the one you have in your packet has not been reviewed.
The one in the packet is the county
The
application.
county sent that one over? Okay, the county forwarded one. So we have one from the county that's in your packet, one filed at City Hall, I believe? You filed
I'm
at
just confused.
City Hall?
Okay, so,
You filed your
I sent-
application?
I sent mine to you.
Pardon?
I had sent mine to you.
Okay, so
Or
I
I
have one that
sent the
came
city
directly from one
manager.
person, and one that came from the county that frankly, I've never seen. So it's a recommendation on a rezone in the ranchettes
Rezone to
on
what?
Bald Eagle Drive. But I have not
You want
reviewed
to
it,
do
Mr. Chairman.
I mean, this is the issue on everything in the ranchettes, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's all E1 and he wants to make an R1, which makes sense.
No, 60 days, but we are somewhat at a juncture that may prove to be difficult. The county only has so many days to rule on, as you know, under planning and zoning law, on a rezone request. So,
You could, an option that you could is recess this meeting to give the planner time to review it, come back, reconvene at another day within this time frame that the county has, so she can make her recommendation and still hit the time frames that need to be hit.
So we don't know if they have the same information on each request?
right, we have two working issues as I see them right now. One
So-
is an application that hasn't been reviewed, and two is a restriction that the county has for when they have to rule
Right.
or recommend. But that is a 60-day timeline, and we're rocking pretty close to that now. So can we reconvene electronically? Is that possible?
That
No,
has
has to be
expired.
state
Has
law,
to be in
it has to be in
person.
person. Is there, I mean, I don't, we can probably reconvene, can't we, at another date? Is everybody gonna be able to, like, show up in a, what do you guys think? I mean, it's not gonna take long, it's a matter of like doing this and
No,
then just
it'll
come
be
back
a-
on like
A relatively quick
10
process.
minutes on a Tuesday or something. Well, let's not make it a Tuesday. But, so can we do something like that? So what we need to do then is we need to make through every other agenda item, and then we'll recess the meeting to a later date. We'll set a date.
That would be my recommendation, because I think that keeps you from having any real issues with a time frame expiring.
And where are we on time frame?
They make that date on this. Do we know what date this was submitted to the county?
No, I don't know what day we got it from the county. It's part of that agreement I'm not a fan of. John, do we know when we received this from the county?
I'll look at my emails to see who I received it from.
I mean, I think we need to know as promptly as possible. Can you look in your emails while we proceed through the agenda so that we can have a good idea how to set a date? So we make sure we make it.
Do I officially have to do something
I think we need to just proceed through the agenda and then we'll come back, we'll just, we'll come back and.
So let's do a motion to table this to the end of the meeting, and then we'll come back to it and we can figure out
We have
what
a
our
motion
dates.
to table
Motion to
this
table.
the end of
Second.
the meeting.
You got a first, you got a motion and a second.
Okay. Any discussion?
Lost me.
So what we're doing,
None, all those in favor signify by saying.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, motion
who
carried.
made the motion and second?
I made the motion.
Motion and second. There we go.
There's a motion to table to the end of the meeting.
Okay.
All right. Yeah, flood development application, Brookside Drive, Kingston. It always floods.
This one was reviewed, I'm so excited. This is informational only for the planning commission. All of you remember the history of the 2010 flood. This was a lot that flooded. The last series of flood maps that you received from FEMA, this parcel is no longer in a flood area. The property, the manufactured home that was on the property during the flood of 2010 flooded 5.5 feet up on the walls, just to about midway of the electric panel in the bedroom. At some point after that, the house caught on fire, and fire was put out, and it sat vacant and empty for a while. Mr. Bates purchased the property. Because the property was the subject of FEMA relief funds, he is required to carry flood insurance, even though it's no longer in a map flood area. So all of those things were covered with Mr. Mapes. Mr. Mapes has paid the property taxes for the county. He was not the previous owner, by the way. From 2009 to present date, he also paid the city taxes from 2009 to present date. He cleaned up the lot I met with him. The lot next door attempted to replace their manufactured home after the flood, dug the foundation holes, which flooded. There's a stream under the property, so they couldn't put a new one in last year because the water kept filling up the foundation holes where they were attempting to replace it. We did a similar process with Mr. Mapes' lot 2 weeks ago. Geotech engineer came out, it passed the test, it didn't fill with water, so he is able to build there. He has voluntarily agreed to elevate the structure to 513, which is 6.5 feet above the flood stage of 2010. He has agreed to anchor it with bilateral anchoring systems to prevent flotation. And the Planning Commission, as you know, you're the appeals board for flooding. So the question that I have for you tonight, I would like for you to grant him permission to leave some flow-through vents in the foundation, because right now we require a solid foundation with nothing more than air vents. I would like permission to advise him to put flow-through vents so that if the water comes, it can go in one and out the other and not take the structure down. Secondarily, he did fill out and provide an elevation certificate. It is above flood stage according to your new maps. And when I say new, the 2018 maps. He did sign an agreement to elevate to 513, the flood stage. And other than the foundation issue, the flood permit is ready to go. He also paid development taxes for a new house to Cheatham County in the amount of $1,950 in order to put this unit on.
Well, you know my feeling about any development in the floodplains. I don't know how,
I-
in good
They're
conscience, you can
technically
allow
not in the
that.
floodplain. so-
I keenly agree with your perception on that, Mr. Chairman. As you know, you and I share that in common. However, currently, he's not in a flood area. The map now indicates the lot's out. We don't have a mechanism other than the receipt of federal dollars for relief funds and the requirement for flood insurance. That's all the ammo that we have in our bill.
Well, I know that we can't do anything.
Yes, sir.
I think
What I'm
that's-
seeking is direction on whether or not I can advise him, because of the circumstances of this particular structure, where it's located and what we know likely will happen again in the future, whether he can put flood vents in instead of air vents in the foundation.
Does that require a motion from this body?
It will.
Do we have such a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying
Aye.
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 Those opposed, motion carries. All right.
Thank you. And if you are ready, I am now ready to revisit the previous item on the agenda for Bald Eagle Drive.
Did we get a date for that?
I
We're gonna
don't know
work
what the
timelines.
date of submission was. My first interaction was with him in April.
John is going to check it.
John's going to check that. With the date of the submission, we are not tied to a timeline, the county is. The county has 60 days to rule on their planning commission one way or the other. So we're stuck by that because we're,
Yeah. I just want to make sure we fit within that timeline for the applicant's sake.
so the property contains 2.51 acres. It is in the ranchettes. As you know, we have a long history of looking at lots that are less than 3 acres, which is what their E1 zone requires. This one is a request to rezone the property to R1, which is more appropriate. The bulk of the lots in that subdivision do not meet the 3-acre minimum. So in every single one of these that we've had come to us, I feel perfectly comfortable in making the recommendation that it be rezoned to R1, because there is no reason for anyone in that subdivision to have to suffer through this over and over and over again. That particular area doesn't appear to have the flood issues that we have in proper Kingston Springs and adjacent areas. I have checked the flood map, it's not an issue. our recommendation has been consistent on the last 13 of these that we have looked at, 13 of them, to go from E1 to R1, because the zoning was visited on these people after the subdivision was approved.
Do we have a motion to take this action?
Recommendation to the county.
Recommendation.
Okay, wait, so you reviewed it, is what you're saying?
Yes.
Oh, okay, so you're good.
I
Okay, so
just
we
got,
don't
no, I
need-
just got done doing it. That's how long it takes.
So that's
to
all
look
I'm
at
saying.
the
Okay, so I misunderstood. I thought we were still, so we just kind of sent John off on a fool's errand here to
No, we're good.
to do that. Okay, so we're good. So your recommendation is to,
To recommend rezoning from E1 to R1 in the county.
all right. Did you text John?
I got it.
It's a lot, Brady. I'm
No,
sorry.
I got it, you're fine.
Oh, do it, well, go ahead. I think you have some.
Pardon?
Give him
We need a motion.
So moved.
Moved, seconded, any discussion? Hearing none, motion.
Aye.
All those say
a-
aye.
Aye.
Move.
I'll make a
Right
motion.
on.
Second.
What's B?
Tony seconded. Who seconded that motion?
It wasn't me, it was someone down there.
Who seconded this last
Who
one?
seconded the motion? Was that you, Keith?
Yeah, sure.
Keith.
I thought you made the motion.
I made it, but.
Give us a red flag that we can hold up, you know.
So Keith made
First,
the
second,
motion,
you know.
who made the motion, and who made the second?
Here's the thing.
Chuck.
Chuck made the
seconded it,
second,
yeah.
there we go.
It's getting slow.
I'm sorry, I was going back and forth.
Distracted.
I was confused.
Keith is trying to unseat Chuck as the king.
I've got more years' experience between me and Tony, you know.
All right.
We know how to do it,
Are
right?
we on item B?
We're on.
Sharon,
Yes, sir.
are we on item
Discussion
B?
only, right? Item B was part of the same thing.
Yes.
We're on, isn't it? Item B was,
D, excuse me. No, it's B.
no, see, this is just, that just had to do with the, that was just part of item F.
It's
Yeah, part of the rezone.
That was part of those are just regulations for item F. So what we're looking at now is on other, for discussion only, item A. John.
Oh, I'm sorry, yes, I am back on track.
It's your turn in the barrel.
Are you confused, John? So are we.
This item is on here just to let the planning commission know that from a wastewater infrastructure standpoint, we have a couple of large projects coming through, and one that I do believe will benefit not only the town, but the planning commission as well as we move forward. Right now, our sewer maps are less than adequate.
Terrible.
They're, let's say, less than adequate right now. Our wastewater operator, Austin Patterson, is doing a very good job right now of, as on a one-on-one basis as he goes and does inspections or does repairs, he's mapping the lines as he goes. However, we would like to, because we are having a good bit of infiltration issues with stormwater getting into our wastewater lines that are increasing our levels, which makes TDEC not so happy. We are working to repair those lines and working on a program that will repair that I&I. And part of that will be mapping the sewer lines with GPS. So we will be scoping the lines, mapping the lines with GPS, and then reworking our maps on such a database where Austin can, or anyone can, go out with a tablet at any particular location, and we'll be able to find not only the main sewer lines, but the lines coming off of the main into the septic systems. So just to let you know, that's on the way. It's a large project, so we've divided the town into seven different sub-districts, and we'll be starting kind of piece by piece as we move forward. So just wanted to keep you aware and up to date.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Chairman, can I make a comment on that last topic as well? After the 2010 flood, locating water and sewer lines was a huge issue for us. So I think it will provide some really important information to have those found.
Yeah, that's been an issue since the sewer was put in.
Yes, sir, it has.
All right, next item, planning commission training.
Okay. Again, Margaret, I would like to conduct a joint training session, because I believe that the Board of Zoning Appeals, the City Commission, and Planning Commission, with the growth plan and a couple of other topics, have some commonalities that we need to discuss. So if you would, please consult your calendars. I would like to do this in June. Some of you sit on both, so if you get to knock out two birds with one stone. In particular, our Board of Zoning Appeals, because we have new members, really needs some training. And it will help to give context to their hearings in the future. So if you would consult your calendars and please give John some dates in June that you can meet, I would appreciate it.
June 17th is the Board of Commissioners meeting, and then June 10th would be the June Planning Commission meeting. So if we could perhaps organize around one of those 2 dates, that might be helpful, since we already have meetings scheduled.
Would we like to maybe do planning commission and then, because I mean, the planning commission, you've got at least 2 members of the board of commissioners that are already committed to being here, and does that work for you, Carolyn?
I'm good.
Okay. So we already know 3. So that just leaves, just leaves Glenn and, maybe work around the plan. Maybe, I mean, we can check with the city commission, but I think that would be a good one. And do we want to maybe start the meeting an hour early and do that? I don't know if that's a possibility. Maybe start at 6, do the training at 6, and then let the planning
Trying to
commission
read the
commit
basis
with.
in front of me. I'm in, the date is, and the time are fine with me in either case, just at the convenience of the commission and the boards.
Well, I'm just thinking, because we'll still have planning commission business to follow afterwards, right?
That's correct.
So would it be beneficial to maybe let the other boards come and do the training and then move into commission business, planning commission business following? I don't know, if that's a possibility. Does that sound good to you, Sharon, or is that?
That's fine.
My busy schedule.
If Tony can squeeze it in, that is.
So is an hour enough for you to give your training?
Oh yeah, how long is the training?
I think we're going to be done in about 45 minutes, unless there are a lot of questions from the new members, that we should be
Okay.
we're good.
So June 10th at 6 p.m.
Good. Sounds good.
I would suggest, if it's okay with the board, to, since we will have a much larger body, then we will meet in the activity center rather than here.
That's fine.
Will there be snacks?
Yes, there will be snacks. I will bring snacks.
What do you say?
Will you bring snacks?
We don't need a motion for that.
Tony said donuts. He brought donuts.
I did.
Yeah, he brought donuts. Ray Krause brought candy, you know.
All right,
That's all I have.
now, well, we need to go back to the,
No, we handled that.
We
did.
handled that.
We finished it. We're done.
Motion to adjourn.
we have a motion to adjourn.
Move.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, signify by saying aye. or
Aye.
leave.